In 1969, a California newspaper received a letter from a killer. Inside was a cipher, a puzzle of strange symbols. When it was finally solved, it didn't reveal his name. It revealed the chilling philosophy of a monster. Some killers hide in the shadows. He craved the spotlight. He called himself the Zodiac. And for years he held San Francisco in a grip of fear. Not just with his crimes, but with his intellect. He was a murderer, a terrorist, and a puzzle maker. And his final greatest puzzle was himself. In this investigation, we will deconstruct the case from the crime scenes to the ciphers to understand the mind of a killer who was never caught. Our story begins not with a letter, but with a gunshot in the dark. December 20th, 1968, Lake Herman Road, a desolate lover's lane in Northern California. High school students David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen are on their first date. They are ambushed, shot and killed in a cold execution-style attack. There is no robbery, no clear motive, just brutal, senseless violence. The case baffles police. For 6 long months, the trail goes cold. The killer, for now, is a ghost. Then on July 4th, 1969, just a few miles away, he strikes again. Another couple, Darlene Farron and Michael Mageau, are shot in their car at Blue Rock Springs. Darlene dies. Michael miraculously survives. But this time, the killer doesn't just disappear. He announces himself. Less than an hour after the attack, a man calls the Vallejo Police Department from a payphone. His voice is calm, monotone, and chilling. He confesses to the shooting, and then he takes credit for the murders 6 months prior at Lake Herman Road. "I also killed those kids last year," he says. The ghost now has a voice. The random acts of violence now have a connection. A single, terrifying entity was hunting in the dark. But a phone call was not enough. He wanted more than fear. He wanted fame, and he was about to make his public debut. On August 1st, 1969, the game truly began. 3 nearly identical, handwritten letters arrived at the offices of 3 major newspapers in the San Francisco Bay Area. Each letter contained details from the recent attacks that only the killer could possibly know, proving their authenticity. But they also contained something else. Each letter included one part of a 3-part cryptogram, a cipher of 408 symbols. The author included a chilling ultimatum: publish the cipher on the front page, or he would go on a killing rampage that weekend. He did not sign with a name. He signed with a symbol, a cross circle that would soon become synonymous with terror. Faced with an ethical nightmare, the newspapers chose to comply. The puzzle was presented to the public. Days later, another letter arrived. This time, he gave himself a name, opening with the now legendary line. The killer was no longer an anonymous ghost. He was the Zodiac, a puzzle maker, a media manipulator, and a symbol of intelligent evil. With the ciphers now public, a new kind of hunt began, not on the streets but on paper. The Z408 cipher, published in 3 parts, was a direct challenge to the public. The FBI and NSA were stumped, but the solution came from an unlikely source. Donald and Betty Harden, a high school history teacher, and his wife took on the puzzle. Over a weekend, they meticulously worked through the code. They assumed it was a simple substitution cipher and looked for repeating symbols, guessing they represented common letters like E or the word I. After 20 hours, they had a breakthrough. The symbols began to form words, revealing a terrifying glimpse into the killer's mind. The message read, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. but it contained a crushing disappointment for law enforcement. The cipher was a philosophical rant, not a confession. It did not contain his name. The game was far from over. Months later, the Zodiac sent a new challenge, the Z340 cipher. It was far more complex, a chaotic jumble of 340 symbols that would become his masterpiece. For 51 years, this cipher remained one of the holy grails of cryptography. It stumped the FBI, the CIA, and generations of codebreakers. Until 2020, an international team of 3 amateur codebreakers, working together online, finally achieved the impossible. Using sophisticated software and discovering a complex diagonal reading pattern, they unlocked the message after more than half a century of silence. The message was another taunt, referencing a TV show and claiming the victims in the gas chamber were not him. And again, no name. But the Zodiac left 2 final tantalizing puzzles, 2 short ciphers that remain unsolved to this day. One of them begins with the most direct challenge of all. My name is, followed by 13 cryptic symbols. The killer's identity locked away in a final, unbreakable cipher. But while the ciphers were a dead end for his name, the police investigation on the ground was closing in on several suspects. The Zodiac was careful. He left behind few fingerprints and no definitive DNA. The hunt for him was a web of circumstantial evidence, and one name became tangled in that web more than any other. Arthur Lee Allen, a former school teacher with a troubled past, who became the investigation's prime suspect for decades. The circumstantial case against him was compelling. He wore a Zodiac brand watch. Its logo was the cross-circle symbol. He owned the same size and brand of military boots that left a print at one crime scene, and he allegedly told a friend that his favorite part of a movie was the part where I kill the kids. But for every piece of damning evidence, there was a frustrating contradiction. Forensic science, the ultimate decider, did not cooperate. His fingerprints did not match the few prints the Zodiac left behind. His handwriting was analyzed by experts and ruled not to be a match to the letters. Years later, a partial DNA profile was developed from a stamp on one of the Zodiac's envelopes. It did not match Arthur Leigh Allen. Dozens of other suspects have been named over the years, from journalists to businessmen, but none have ever been definitively linked to the crimes. The face of the killer remains a ghost, a sketch on a wanted poster, an identity as cryptic as his ciphers. And then, after years of terrorizing the public and craving the spotlight, the letters simply stopped. The silence of the Zodiac is perhaps his greatest and final mystery. Why would a killer so obsessed with fame suddenly choose anonymity? Did he die? Was he imprisoned for another crime, laughing from his cell? Or did he simply get bored and retire his persona? The truth is, it no longer mattered. By this point, the Zodiac had achieved his true goal. He had successfully transformed himself from a common serial killer into a piece of dark folklore, a modern-day Jack the Ripper. His ultimate weapon was not the gun or the knife. It was the pen. He understood that while violence creates fear, a puzzle creates obsession. And in that obsession, he found a twisted form of immortality, a ghost locked in a cipher, forever haunting our imagination.